Hi, welcome to the Closet Philosophy Podcast. This is Janine. I'm a personal stylist.
And this is Kristen. I'm a fashion writer, and we're here to uncover the ways that your personal style is so much more than just clothes.
Whether you realize it or not, what you wear touches on science, psychology, culture, politics, and so much more.
Today, we are joined by a woman who has built a global movement around living with less while gaining so much more. Shira Gill is a world-renowned organizing expert and the best-selling author of 3 books, Minimalista, Organized Living, and Lifestyled. Her work isn't just about decluttering, it's about transforming how we live, dress, and express ourselves with intention. She's been featured everywhere from Good Morning America and the Wall Street Journal to Vogue, Goop, and Oprah Daily. Her popular newsletter, The Life Edit, reaches readers in over 150 countries, inspiring people to simplify their homes, wardrobes, and lives. We're so excited to dive into this conversation with Shira because organizing isn't just about tidying up, it's about editing your life to make space for what truly matters. Shira, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to chat with you about all of this.
Yeah,
so are we.
So are we. I mean, people ask me all the time about organizing, and I'm like, I have ADHD, and
Yeah.
that's not my strong suit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Systems, yes. Organizing, we're pretty organized, but yeah. But I think that it's so exciting to have you here, and because like so many people think of organizing as just like cleaning up, but your work shows it's really more about editing and curating your life. So how do you see the connection between organization and personal style?
Oh gosh. Well, it's interesting. I mean, I think people often say to me that they need help getting organized when really they need help editing. And I see that in home, in life, in business, in everything. I think we have a volume problem more so than we have an organizing problem. And so the way that I approach the closet is always by helping people figure out first, what do they want? Like, how do they want to show up? What are the organizing challenges? What are the style challenges? And the objective is always like, make your life easier, right? Like organization is just a tool to make your life easier. So I think about it as like, it's not about perfection or cookie cutter, perfect solutions. It's just about figuring out like where in my life or my closet am I feeling friction or challenge, and how can I leverage organization to overcome that? So often, and I work with a lot of people who have ADHD, like often decision fatigue is really overwhelming. I mean, for all of us. And so having a streamlined, organized closet can make it easier to tap into your style because it's just less overwhelming to get dressed, and it can be more creative and inspiring rather than opening a closet where it's like everything's balled up and shoved in piles and you can't move your hangers. If you have an organized closet, it just makes it easier to get dressed and make the process of getting dressed fun.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. I mean, I think that where you and I like have like similarities is like I have the capsule wardrobe system. It's a weekly capsule wardrobe where you select 10 items that match by color for the week, and you kind of section that out. But it's like, but you would be dealing with like the whole system. And so like, and I always like recommend people do like the capsule for at least like a month or 2 months, like a weekly capsule for 2 months, just to see like their style and how they style things and what they need and what they don't like. Because it's easier to tell when you have 10 pieces what you're resisting and what you love and what you like when instead of like looking at like hundreds of pieces. And so, but for you, I guess I'm wondering like how do you without that kind of knowledge, I guess, of like what people actually use, how do you know you're editing the right things, I guess?
Yeah. So I think it's about asking the right clarifying questions from the beginning. I find that people really fill their closets with aspirational items that make no sense for their actual lives.
Mhm.
And so I love to just get the brass tacks of like, what do you do during the day? What is your career? Do you travel? Do you have an active social life? Do you go to formal events? Let's just get the big picture of how do you actually spend your time? And then we look at what are the closet staples you need to do those things. So, like, for someone who's like, I'm right now just had a baby and I'm home, feeding my baby and then sometimes taking walks and getting groceries. If their closet is filled with business suits, it just becomes like, it doesn't make sense, right? So that's where I always start is just the practical.
Mhm.
And then I go to more of the work you do, I think, with like style coaching, is like, how do you want to feel in your clothes? Like that always really interests me. What are I'm always in favor of like timeless over trendy, but like, who are the people that inspire you? Do you have images of like street style or celebrities or even you at a different age that feels really aligned and resonant? For people who really feel lost, I ask them like, do you have a favorite brand? Is there a brand that resonates for you? Is there a person you connect with? It's just like playing detective to help people figure out. And even for myself, like I went through a lengthy process to figure out what my style was. And I just collected, a Pinterest board for years of like, oh, I like that. I'm inspired by that. This seems like something I might want to try. And then it was so funny because when I had a girlfriend look at it, kind of, with an objective eye, she was like, every single one of these women is wearing monochromatic neutrals. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I guess I like monochromatic neutrals, but I never would have been able to even articulate that, had I not put together this visual board and then had kind of an outside observer say, like, well, here's what I see you really loving and gravitating towards.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's really interesting to need that second eye, like someone else, like a fresh eye, to look at your Pinterest board or whatever, your closet, even your closet maybe, and that's where you guys come in very handy as stylists, to provide that fresh eye. And it also, so this reminds me of, so I recently have I've gone through all of my clothes, like everything that like doesn't fit anymore that I hoped thought might fit again one day.
Mhm.
And I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready to give up on this idea that these clothes are going to fit someday. And I'm going to, probably try to sell them. I've given some to my daughter who's 12. So that tells you how like small they are
Yeah.
and like how they're not going to fit me.
Yes.
And so I'm curious, like, how do you help women sort of in that phase of life where they're like, okay, I want to hang on to these clothes because I'm like hoping that I'm going to lose weight or I'm hoping that something will change and they'll
Right.
fit me again or I'll use them again. How do you
Yeah.
coach them through that process of deciding like, oh yeah, okay, we're going to hold on to this or we're not, or we're going to get rid of it?
Yeah. It's really tricky, right? Because women have transitional bodies. That's just like biologically, we're always going to be changing. It's normal, it's natural. And I'm a big fan of like only embracing the current moment and the current body that you have. So my advice is always like, let's not hang on to aspirational, maybe one day pieces because it reaffirms the message that you're not okay as you are. And you're like waiting for some elusive someday to wear the things you love. I would rather focus on making sure you feel really good in your clothes right now. I have found women have a lot of resistance to this, to the, like rip off the band-aid and just say it doesn't fit, bye. And so I've kind of created some flexible, compromises. Like I'll say, okay, let's say the items that you really love, you'd be thrilled to wear if you lost or gained weight or whatever that metric was. Let's limit it to one box that can fit under your bed. And so having a physical boundary, so it's not like we're just going to keep whatever. It's like we're keeping a tight capsule of like the fewer better staples that you think you'd be really thrilled to wear. I mean, I can say recently I'm definitely in perimenopause. My body is like shape shifting. And I just found every time I try to put on jeans and they don't fit, it made me feel bad. And so, as much as I
Very
love
familiar
those
with that.
jeans, yeah, I think a lot of women are. I was like, I'm getting rid of all of them. I don't want to have jeans that make me feel bad.
Good
So,
for you.
they're all gone. I just gave them all away.
Amazing. Oh my
And
God.
I loved my jeans, but I was like, I would rather have two pairs of jeans that feel really killer right now than have 15 pairs that I'm like trying to inhale and like can't eat a sandwich in.
Yeah.
So, I'm walking the walk in that I don't own any transitional aspirational items. Like I only own things that fit me and flatter the body that I have in this moment.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And like it's not like you can't get another pair of jeans. Like either if you did end up losing weight or something, you can go get and there's no dearth of jeans
Yes.
in the world.
Jeans are available, I hear.
Yes. Yeah, I mean there
Yeah.
might be like a special pair that you're just like, "Oh, I loved those so much." Like they had that certain wash or something and maybe those are the
Yeah.
ones you put under your bed or whatever.
Yes,
But in
yes.
general,
Or
it's
like the perfect vintage pair that's like, this is irreplaceable.
yeah.
Maybe you're going to save that for your daughter or find a way of repurposing it. But in general, what I have found is that my clients who do actually lose weight end up wanting to buy new clothes anyway, or their style shifts anyway. And that
Right.
dusty box is like a lot less appealing than they thought it would be.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Because your life changes.
Your
Yeah.
life changes, your identity changes. We're always shape shifting. And I think clothes are kind of such a cool expression of where you're at and how you're feeling. It's hard to predict how you might feel someday if something happens.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, I think that this is really interesting and I, I'm just also like kind of curious as well. A lot of women are like stuck in sweatpants and leggings and like athleisure, and they have clothes that are like quote unquote aspirational. But is it aspirational really? Because a lot of people say like, well, I don't have anything to dress up for, so I'm just wearing like leggings and, Patagonia vests every day.
Right.
But like in reality, you don't have to dress like that on the daily. Like you can
Yeah.
wear pants, you can wear jeans, you can wear dresses, you can wear those things in casual ways if you don't have like a
Yeah.
busy life. So how do you differentiate between like somebody who is kind of stuck in that place and then they have these clothes that they actually want to wear and or these are like completely, I mean, I'm not talking about ball gowns or anything like that. Like I'm
Yeah.
talking like
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
pants.
Of course. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Totally.
yeah.
So what I found, it's really easy to put on the comfy stuff, right? For me, I had to get rid of it so it wasn't an option to force myself to wear a cute blouse and jeans instead, because I just
Hmm.
found, you know what? I do always go to like the leggings and the sweatshirt. But because I decided I didn't want to wear leggings and a sweatshirt because they didn't make me feel good. And I know we share the value of like, you're dressing for you, you're not dressing for someone else or someone else's standard of beauty. But I think it's asking yourself, like, how do I feel my best? And how do I feel confident and energized and aligned? And like, I remember during COVID, I just got so kind of bummed out wearing sweats and pajamas that
Mhm.
I decided like I'm gonna dress up to make macaroni and cheese for my kids on lockdown because like that makes me feel better.
Mhm.
And I remember going to the grocery store kind of, my version of dolled up, which is still very casual. And a woman stopped me and said, like, it's so nice to see somebody dressing right now. Like it inspires me to do the same.
Mhm.
So I think, it's about if you only own your favorite things, you'll only wear your favorite things. And
Mhm.
so I've actually found through kind of the ruthless editing, it's like sometimes you just have to say, I'm going to get rid of those comfort things because they don't make me feel good, if that is the case.
Mhm.
I have a handful of clients that are like, I love athleisure. I feel kick-ass in athleisure. That's how I feel my most me and my most confident. But I think you're right. It's a trap for a lot of people. And maybe it's not like the elevated athleisure. It's like the beat up old college sweatshirt and like the sad, stretched out leggings that like aren't making anybody feel powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
sometimes it's like people do that not because they feel they want to feel good. It's like because they want to feel invisible, like they don't want people
Yeah.
to look at them,
Yeah.
and that's
And
coming from a different place.
it's coming from a different place. And I think like, I used to be an actor. I spent 20 years in the theater, and costumes were such a big part of the transformation of character. And I think clothes are so powerful. There are some days where I'm like, I do just want to go to Trader Joe's and not see anybody and not talk to anybody. And I might purposefully wear like a gray sweatsuit and like, but I think that it's all about intentionality. It's like, are you wearing that because you've made a choice and it's what you want or it's what feels good? Or is it like it's just by default and it's unintentional and it doesn't feel good? So I think it's starting with the like, how do I want to feel? And are my clothes getting me closer to that?
Yeah, and it's interesting that sort of disconnect that I think people have, myself included, have sometimes where you're like, I want to go to the grocery store or like if I'm volunteering at my kid's school or something like that, and I just want to be comfortable, but that
Yeah,
those clothes that make you like potentially physically comfortable might make you like mentally uncomfortable because then you
right.
realize you're at your kid's school with all the teachers and the parents and you have your ratty sweatpants on or whatever and so it
Totally.
has the opposite effect almost.
I know. I know. It's funny. There was some meme or something I saw once that was like, dress as if you might run into your ex.
Yeah.
And I know we're not dressing for other people, but like I was like, that's kind of a good life hack. Like to be
Yeah.
like, I never want to like run into someone I haven't seen in 20 years and be in like my sad sweats. That would
Yeah.
be kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
yeah.
And
I
Janine, you
mean,
talk a lot about like dressing not just for yourself, but just dressing for community. And I love that concept that you talk about because it's like you're not really disregarding every other person in the world when you get dressed. You like we don't live in a vacuum, right?
Hmm.
yeah,
That's really interesting. I've never thought of that. I'm like, now, can you say more about that idea?
yeah.
Well,
I
Janine's
mean,
the expert.
oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, clothing is interesting because, we have all of these sayings like, oh, I just dress for myself, I just dress for myself, or I dress for other people. But I think that there is nuance there because clothing is communication. It's like you were saying about when you were in the theater, stepping into that character was a lot of
Yeah.
it was like the costume and that communicated that character's values, their role in society, like who they were, what they were about, and all of that. And we can actually use clothes as a tool to communicate to other people. So it's like I would say it's kind of like not necessarily dressing for like it is dressing for yourself, but it's almost like think about clothes as a way to communicate like you would communicate with words. Like we say what we want to say, we say what's in our heart because this is what we were moved to say. We're not talking to please
Yeah.
other people, right? But there
Yeah.
is that nuance that there is this two-way conversation happening when we get dressed, and then people actually when you get dressed in your authenticity and your full power, you're telling yourself that you matter, your words matter, your presence matters, and you actually show up differently in the world, and then people
Yeah.
respond to you differently. So it's kind of like this interactive
Yeah.
thing that happens. And I think that when we say like just dress for yourself, you're kind of missing that whole conversation that happens when we connect with each other.
That's super interesting. Yeah, I think it's funny because I have a bias because like I've worked with so many women who feel like they're dressing for what society thinks they should do, or what their mother said, or what their husband likes. And so I always focus on that, like you're dressing for your standard, your goals, your values.
Hmm.
But you're right, it misses like an important piece of the conversation of like that we are always in communication with each other. And I've noticed, like I dress pretty simply and pretty neutral. So there's not a lot of like conversation starters with my wardrobe. But like I've gone to, you're looking at me like maybe.
I mean,
Well,
maybe. I
you
don't
tell
think that's
me.
true.
But
I
like,
mean, even though it's like neutral, it does have a very strong point of view. Like,
yeah, for
like
sure.
the
That's true.
hat, the like for those who can't see, like Shira was wearing this really
Oh,
beautiful brimmed hat
okay. So cute.
and this kind of almost would you call it a peasant blouse with like pin tucks and ruffles and puff sleeves. And I would say that it's very romantic and very mixed with the modern hat. I think is a really interesting juxtaposition and stuff. And so it has like a very strong point of view. So what you're communicating is like this kind of curation
Uh-huh.
in your wardrobe. And like and the thing that I've noticed about your style is that you consistently show up in the same
Yeah.
place. And so
I wear the same thing basically every day.
yeah.
Yeah, so that is a very distinct point of view, I guess. I think I'm just thinking of like, when you go to like a party or a conference and someone's in like a pink tutu or like a dress with strawberries all over it, it does provide you with an opening to be like, what a cool dress. You know what I mean? And I think I'm like aware I don't provide that opportunity. Maybe I provide a different opportunity to talk about wearing the exact same thing every day.
Well, yeah, and the woman in the grocery store approached you, right?
That's true.
You
That's
know, and
true. That's funny.
I had a similar experience when going back to the volunteering at school example. Like, I guess I was sort of afraid of of what I was communicating because I didn't think that the other parents would get it. Like, I assumed that they are going to be like, what is she wearing? And like, not understand or think I'm weird or whatever. And so, but the last time I volunteered, I was like, you know what? I'm going to wear something that I feel like is cute and stylish, even though because I just wanted to like get dressed because I work from home too. And so I was so surprised because the school counselor approached me and she was like, okay, this has nothing to do with school. But she was like, you always look so cool. She was like, where do you shop? And like, where do you get your clothes? And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. I was like so
Um,
flattered. And I was like, and it was an opportunity to be like, well, I actually thrift a lot. Like I get like a lot of stuff at like Salvation Army or Goodwill. And, it was like a fun opening for a conversation. And I was like very surprised. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'm just realizing I met my now best friend because she came up to me and asked where a ring that I was wearing was from.
Oh,
And it's
see?
like, that's so interesting. I never
Yeah.
put that together, that it is like how wild that, we think of, or many people think of clothing as so superficial, but it actually can be like such a tool for connection.
Yeah,
100%.
because
Yep.
you're basically sending out a beacon of this is who I am, this is what I'm about.
Right.
And like the
Right.
people who resonate with that beacon, they whoop,
Yeah.
like I want to be friends with that person because I think that we might have something in common. And so, and then
Totally.
that's when they come and approach you. And so it
Yes.
makes sense.
It does. It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're signaling with your clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people kind of miss the nuance. It's like when you're like dressing to please other people or you're dressing to be something that you're not. And so
Yeah.
it's like a very fine line between like dressing because I think like I've had like, personally I've had like three times in my life where clothing really transformed my life. It like took my life and like made like a drastic turn. And each of those times, it wasn't about dressing nice. It wasn't dressing like on trend. It was about dressing true to myself.
Right.
So, and like that's
Yeah.
when things started to kind of come together. And I think that
Yeah.
finding that authenticity and that thing that really resonates with you and wearing that thing, that's when you're sending the signals about what is true to you. And so,
Totally. And it takes a lot of trial and error, don't you find? Like, I went through a whole period where I wore black all the time because I was just like, black is really simple and it always looks chic. And then I felt like it felt like a dark cloud to me wearing black. So then I started wearing all white. And that, like, obviously, I've never gone back. I was like, this is my thing. I found it. Like, this is how I feel good. But it took years of sort of like playing and noticing and refining. And now it's interesting. I think I've worn the same basic uniform for about 10 years. And I'm finding myself a little itchy for change for the first time. I think it's maybe like approaching a new phase of life, perimenopause, like hormones are changing, but I feel this sort of like I might have outgrown this like peasanty feminine thing, but I don't yet know what's the next thing. And so I'm just being kind of playful and curious about it without buying anything new. Like just like my eye is out to be like, what might feel like the new thing? And what's funny is the closest I've gotten is just replacing like the frilly peasant blouse with like a white t-shirt. Like just
That's super
crisper,
interesting.
clean, like less frilly, less I don't know, like fussy, like I've just been like, I want like clean lines, super simple, even more minimal than I already have been. But yeah, I had a good long run with 10 years of the exact same thing feeling like really solid.
oh, that's amazing. That's a really good run though. And so
It's a
that's
good run.
Yeah. I think it
yeah,
makes a lot of
yeah.
sense that you want something more streamlined at this transition in your life.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm also very influenced by my brother is oddly we have a huge age difference and we have different mothers, but we have both come to minimalism as adults and
Hmm.
he's much more extreme than I am and everything he owns can like fit in a tiny backpack and he has worn a black t-shirt and black jeans every day, for like his whole adult life. He has no variation and his life is so dynamic and interesting. And for him, it was like stripping away the decision fatigue and the overwhelm and like the drama that can accompany getting dressed. And he describes it as sort of like a monastic, like I just put on my uniform and go out into the world.
Oh.
Hmm.
So there's a part of me that's always like, I want that level of purity and minimalism, but I just crave more variety and kind of creative expression, I think.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's really important to know about yourself. I mean, like some
Yeah.
people can do the whole, like my son, he wears a green hoodie and black sweatpants like every single day. But it's interesting because he says clothes, he told me he was like, Mom, like actually clothes are important. And so it's
Mhm.
like, so he really
Yeah.
realizes like that is part of his like brand in a sense, like he's 11,
Yeah.
like it's crazy.
Oh yeah.
But like at the same time, it's like like I had this phase where I wore like double denim for like 5 years. And at a certain point, like I rebelled against myself. And so,
Yeah.
how do you like, you know, get to that point of helping your clients like understand where they lie? Like, are they the monastic minimalist or
Yeah.
are they more of a maximalist and they like to play and experiment and do all of that? And where do they land on the spectrum?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a lot of questions and curiosity, right? Because I'm like, I never know the answer. My job is to kind of help you find your answer.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, because they just feel like they don't know, it's like playing detective, I'll say like, do you like this or do you like this? Do you gravitate towards color? Do you love a print? And it's sort of like process of elimination sometimes. I'll also ask people, if I'm doing a closet edit at the beginning, I'll just say, pick out your favorite outfit or like an outfit that makes you feel really good now. And then I do the same thing my friend did for me, which is saying, like, here's what I notice about it, the thing that you like.
Mhm.
Right? Like I notice drama, or I notice clean lines, or it seems like you like neutrals. And then they'll kind of go like, oh yeah, like this is, so it's really just playing that game of like super sleuthing our way to the answer. And I feel like, I mean, what's interesting is I always ask people, how do you want to feel in your clothes? And I feel like so many women have given me the exact same answer, which I don't know if you've seen in your coaching, but it's a lot of like elevated, but without trying too hard. That's
Mhm.
like the main overview that I've gotten again and again is like, I want to look put together, but I don't want to look like I tried too hard. So kind of like the effortlessly chic thing, but that looks really different for each person, right? Depending on what they love, where they work, where they live, like weather factors, environmental factors, cultural factors. So yeah, it's a lot of just like playing, what do you like? What do you hate? Most people do know that. I would never wear this, but I do love this. And noticing what are the patterns in those things, or those things that you're picking out of your own closet, that you're like, if I had to get dressed for something and feel good today, here's what I'm grabbing. So then I'm like, let's hold everything else to that standard of like, you feel good in it, you feel like yourself. And people are really intuitive. So I think once we set that standard, then they're like, yes, no, and I can kind of stand out of the way and just be like a gentle support in the background.
Mhm.
That's
Nice.
interesting. I mean, and especially I'm really curious about that effortlessly chic, that tendency to lean towards that, because I feel like that is, like you said, going to be so different for each person because being effortless for yourself, and Janine, I think you said things like this as well. Like being effortless really depends on on what you actually like.
Mhm.
Like being effortless for like Cher is going to be different from being like Cher is
Yeah.
probably feels effortless in her amazing costumes because that's what she's
Yeah.
done her whole life.
Mhm.
But for someone else, effortless is going to be like a t-shirt and jeans, or it's going to be a dress, or it's going to be like it can be so
Yeah.
different for
Mhm.
each
And
person.
likewise, chic. Like for me, chic might be putting on a big pair of sunglasses with my sweatsuit.
Yeah.
Now I
Yeah.
feel super chic, but like maybe somebody else is like chic for me is like a 4-inch stiletto and a trench coat and fancy jewelry.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's biased because I'm based in the San Francisco Bay Area where we tend to lean very casual. And the majority of my clients have been in the Bay Area
Mhm.
versus like I've done some sessions in New York, and there's much more, as a big generalization, boldness, with like color, design, style, like bolder choices,
Mhm.
risk taking, and like elevating in terms of like more formal pieces that
Mhm.
like in Berkeley, California, just are like, you will really stand out. And it's like a question of do you want to or not?
Mhm. Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, like in terms of like effortless, I think effortless is something that is actually like a skill. I
Mhm.
think that what people are seeing as effortless is actually skill in styling and like understanding how styling works. And like, I mean, I have seen, my clients go from like overworking their outfits to effortless outfits, but it's like through like a process of learning how to style their clothes. And also, having that bit of like, working with the capsules because like removing that decision fatigue. And so it sounds like you have that process of helping people limit the amount of decisions that they have to make and helping them kind of focus their energy on their actual styling of their clothes.
Yes. And it's, I mean, really, I think my goal is to make getting dressed be easy and and feel effortless. It's almost like people are, when they say effortless, it's like the emotion of I just want to open my closet and know that whatever I put on feels good and I feel confident in, and I can like go out and not overthink it or try on 50 different outfits in like a sweaty panic. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
that's always my goal, is when I leave, I want you to feel more confident just opening your closet and getting dressed, and that anything you reach for, you know, it fits me. I like it. I feel good in it. And
Mhm.
so often it's like just by eliminating the items that don't check those boxes, people feel like they now have a completely new wardrobe without buying anything. That's the thing that kind of has been confirmed again and again, is like, I don't shop for people. I'm just editing. And the takeaway is people are always like, this is so weird. Like we just got rid of 60% of my closet and I feel like I have a whole new wardrobe.
Mhm.
Because I think it's just they've removed all of those pieces that created visual and mental and emotional clutter. And now it feels like this whole fresh start just by, it's like addition by subtraction.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah, it's
Less
magical.
is more
Yeah.
in a sense.
I
So,
think always, yeah.
yeah. So in your latest book, you just came out with a new book like a month ago or 2 months ago or something. Yeah. So it's called Lifestyle and it's about streamlining every part of your life. How can organizing your home and your wardrobe impact your confidence, your mindset, and even your presence?
Well, I think, most of us feel a lot of time scarcity. Like time, I think about a lot. It's like our only non-renewable resource, right? Like we can figure out ways to make more money, but we can't figure out how to make more time. Like we all get the same amount of time in the day. And so, really, like what brought me to, I think, minimalism and organization to begin with was the desire to have more time and more freedom and more fun in my life and less being weighed down by responsibility.
Mhm.
And what I realized is that most of us really have a volume problem, and
Mhm.
that volume problem extends out of our closets into our schedules and our to-do lists and how many responsibilities we have, maybe even how many friends or social relationships we have.
Mhm.
And so in the new book, it's really outlining actionable tips for creating more intention in all of those areas through a process I take you through, which is essentially volume, systems, and habits. So volume is really looking at in each area, like say we look at friends for an example, like, do I have too many friends where I feel like I can't, I don't have time to juggle all the people and I'm not really having meaningful quality time? Or do I feel really lonely and like I need to develop new friendships or more community? So it's starting with the volume. Where do I need to like turn it up or turn it down, right? And depending on what season of life you're in, I've had times where I'm like, I can't keep up with like all the phone calls and all the invites. And I've had times where I'm like, I feel so alone. And maybe I need to join a writing group or start a goal setting group or reach out to somebody. So it's like recalibrating based on what your needs are in that moment. And then the systems, like I found, even with friends and community, systems are a way of making what you want easier. And so for me, like I've had times where I was like, it's just so exhausting, the text back and forth to make plans with a friend in this modern day and age where you're not just like, come over. It's like 52 texts to plan a coffee.
Mhm.
And so systems are a way of making it just easier to prioritize the relationships that are important to you. So an example is like, I have two teenage daughters, and now I have like a mini date with each of them every Wednesday and Thursday, respectively. And so I just know like I have this mother-daughter time is now baked in, as opposed to being like, I never see you guys, I miss you. It's like I have this little ritual that, and it's really easy, right? I'm not like taking them to dinner and a movie every week, but like, it's like I pick up my youngest daughter and we go get ice cream at our favorite place. And it's like 30 minutes every Thursday. And then my other daughter, every Wednesday, we go take a yoga class together. And so it's like, I need to exercise anyway. I love ice cream. It's all, it's all aligned. But it's like baking that in. And likewise, like I have a friend that every Tuesday, for years, we were like, let's just have dinner. And so we never have to, have the burden of making the plan. So that's really like in a nutshell, this book is about like how can you work with like volume systems and habits to get more of what you want and cut the clutter, not just in your home, but in all of those areas of your life, from like career to finances to, I have a chapter on health and wellness, relationships, even personal development. Like, do you need to figure out how to rest more? Or do you want to get more active in your community with social or environmental issues? How can you use this framework of, volume systems and habits to live in greater alignment?
Mm. I love that. I love that. So it's a really great way to like break things down because a lot of people are like so I mean, and that's the thing, the whole like 50 text messages to schedule a coffee in 3 weeks. Oh my God. For me, like that just overwhelms me and I end up just like opting out. Well, like, hey, like when things get less busy and then that's like
Right.
another
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So, but it's hard. It's hard in this day and age because like so much is expected out of us for so many reasons, from, cultural to political to, just like personal even. So
Yes.
it's a thing. So when you help people like learn how to declutter their life, how do you help them from like going back? Because like every time I clean out my closet, it just gets full back again. Like it just every I don't know how it happens. It just does. And so
It all comes back. Um, I think it's getting to the point where you want one thing more than the other. So you want, say in this example, like an organized closet more than you want the variety of new clothes. And I don't know if that's the case for you of like why it gets refilled up.
mm,
But I think what I see with people a lot is like they say they want something, but their actions show that they want something else. And so, like for me, what I want desperately is to travel the world. And when I own less stuff, it makes it really easy for me to travel the world because I have more time, more energy, more freedom. I can rent my house out to people, which enables me to travel easily. I want that so badly that like I'll get rid of anything. It's really easy for me. And I see things coming into my home as a threat to that freedom.
Mm.
So I think that's the thing is often people say like, yeah, I want to have an organized closet like you, but it just never happens for me. And I think it's like, well, probably your reason isn't that compelling. And also, maybe it's fine. Like for some people, having a disorganized closet is not that big a deal. They've got other things that they care about more, and no problem, right? But I think it's like it has to be a method for getting something you really want. It's getting that compelling motivation. And for most people that I work with, they haven't worked out what that is unless they've really hit a rock bottom. Like,
Mm.
I want to be a minimalist because I'm sick of being in credit card debt and I feel like I'm ruining my life with like my shopping habit.
mhm.
Then they're really motivated. But if it's just like, oh, it sounds kind of nice to be a little more organized, that doesn't provide you with the fuel that you need to maintain those systems and habits.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So for somebody who like it might sound super overwhelming to dive into a like a process or like, it might be just so intimidating that they never get started.
Yeah.
So like for someone who wants to feel more put together, but they feel like they don't have time for all of that or it's too intimidating, like what's like a simple shift that they could make right away?
To stop buying clothes. And I mean, I love Janine's process of like the intentionality of picking out your capsule for the week. For somebody who's really in overwhelm, I would just say like see if you can take 5 minutes before bed and just pick out your outfit for the next day. That is really going to shift how you dress because most people are not going to lay out their balled up sweats as like, this is what I
Right.
want to wear tomorrow, right? I do think, even for myself, when I've done that exercise of like, look at your calendar. What am I doing tomorrow? Who am I seeing? Where am I going? What do I want to wear? How do I want to feel? And just take the 2 minutes before you go to bed to
Mm.
pick that out and lay it out. I think that will make a huge difference and really is like 2 minutes of your life. I always try to encourage people who feel like they're drowning in clutter to just try a purchase pause for a month. And every time you want something or you feel the urge to buy something, just write it down or take a picture of it so you can revisit at the end of the month, like what still resonates, if anything. For me, I have found it to be so interesting that the things I feel are so urgent at the time, I've completely forgotten about 2 days later if I don't buy it. It's like
Yeah.
that dopamine comes and it goes. And if you can write it out without pulling the trigger, you're probably never going to think about it again.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a really good one.
that is
I
a
need
And
to
you'll
really
save
practice
so
that
much
more.
money. And you can follow Janine on Instagram and like get inspired and play with your own closet because that's what I love that you do that is so different from what other people do is that it's not about consuming more. It's about creating using what you have and reimagining. It's like such a creative exercise. And I think we're so programmed to get bored, shop, feel lonely, shop, you
Mhm.
know, feel bad about ourselves, shop. And I think it's breaking that habit is so powerful. And for me, trying a purchase pause, both for myself and for my clients, has been a really illuminating exercise to kind of get to know your own shopping triggers. Like for me, it's like, it's always when I'm bored or sad is
Mhm.
when I want to shop. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I actually really only want to shop when I feel creative or inspired.
Mm.
But typically, when I am shopping, it's like I'm just bored or I'm sad or I'm lonely and I'm like, want to fill the emptiness quickly. So
Mhm.
if you
Yeah.
can ride that wave out and feel your feelings and not buy the thing, I don't know, it's such a big personal development exercise in addition to like a style exercise.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. I love that
absolutely.
idea of writing stuff down, like writing down what you wanted and
Mhm.
then going back to it. I'm gonna totally try that.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fascinating for me how my brain, I'm like a real dopamine person. Like I love like get it now, do it now. And
Mhm.
so it's been really fascinating to be like to watch myself go like I need this. And then the next day I'm like, "Oh, I didn't need that at
I
all.
didn't
I don't
need
even
that.
care."
Yeah, it's
So
it's
wild.
amazing. I mean, I don't know. It's really like the writing down really does help. I keep a list of things that I keep a list and it's just like I have like a whole process, but keeping that list has been like really kind of helpful in terms of like staying focused and not getting too out of control with the spending and being
Yeah,
intentional. So it sounds like
yeah,
for you that the pause and the writing it down is like a really good way to start practicing that intentionality and bringing that into your life. And so,
yeah,
intentionality always leads to confidence because you're
totally.
learning to trust yourself. So,
Exactly. Yeah, it's such an exercise in learning to trust yourself. Yeah. I also love shopping with a picture or just even like a screenshot of my Pinterest board. So it's like a reminder because there's so many like buy me now
Yeah.
signals when you're out that it's like, let's go back to like the North Star of like, what's the vision? And
mm,
does this fit in with it? I really like a visual reminder for that as opposed to like just the list of these are the things. I like to see like, oh yeah, that's how I want to dress or look or feel. And this thing's not going to get me there.
Right.
mm,
I love that.
yeah. I love that. I absolutely love that. So tell our listeners
Yes.
where they can find you.
Oh, great. Yeah. So my website, shiragill.com. has links to all the things, books, programs. I do a business mentorship, I do coaching, I have a new business retreat coming up. And then you can also find me on Instagram at Shira Gill, or my free newsletter is through Substack. It's called The Life Edit, and it's an incredible community of people now from all over the world and all 50 states who are kind of looking to live better with less. So if that's your mission, come join us over there.
Yay. Oh my gosh. Oh,
That's awesome.
I hope that people do check you out because you have really amazing, really, you're so talented with like creating that vision of a minimal life. And yeah, I love it. It's so cool to see. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm so happy that it's funny because like we had another podcast guest, Aaron Wallace, who had actually mentioned you to me at a lunch like a year ago. I said like you should really meet Shira. And so and then we met last year at a retreat or something like that. So
Oh,
that was
wow.
yeah. So it's kind of like it's funny how it's such a small world. So
Yeah, I love Erin. That's so fun. I'll have to listen to that episode.
she's so amazing. I love her.
Yeah, it was a
So
great conversation. Yeah.
yeah. So
As was
thank
this one. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.